Hello, good morning. Welcome to this restorative movement class for grounding flow. This class is for anytime you are feeling like a little uneasy, like you're worrying a lot, you've got a lot on your mind, you just don't feel grounded, stable, secure. This grounding flow will help you feel a little bit more centered, a little more grounded. So, thank you for joining me today. You'll just need a yoga mat, some comfortable clothes to move in, and a water bottle if you like to stay hydrated during class. So let's go ahead and get started. Before I do, I'll introduce myself just in case I know that those of you joining live probably know me. Hello, good morning. But for those of you that are maybe joining at a later time, my name's Daniela. I also go by Coach Danny. I am a licensed massage therapist and restorative movement therapist. I also have a background in strength coaching, and I specialize in working with women with autoimmune disease and helping them implement movement and body work to restore their body's natural healing um, ability. So that is what I do, and that's who I am. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we are going to start in a seated position. So go ahead and make your way to your yoga mat and come down into a seated position. So we're going to start our grounding practice by making sure we are seated on both sits bones. So you can kind of like move your flesh out of the way and really feel your sits bones against the ground. So during class today, want you to really focus on the connection between the head through the spine and to the hips, to your pelvis, I should say. And I know that like grounding often feels like, oh, I should put like my feet on the ground. But while we are seated, we are also going to focus in on that connection from the head through the spine down to the pelvis. And we will start with just getting really connected to the floor beneath us. So go ahead and find those sits bones, and you can take legs can kind of be crossed one in front of the other, whichever is most comfortable. Let your hands rest in your lap and go ahead and take a breath in through your nose and exhale through the nose. Wiggle out any kind of like tension that you might feel. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and close your eyes, taking a breath in through the nose and exhale through the nose. And continue breathing at your own pace in and out through the nose. So, part of grounding practice is our connection to the earth, to literally the ground beneath us. So, we are going to create a connection here with our breathing. As we breathe in, I want you to imagine pulling in light and energy from the ground up into your body. So we have that connection at our sits bones. So as you breathe in, imagine just pulling in light and energy into your body, allowing it to feed and nourish your body on that inhale. And then on the exhale, we're going to exhale and then imagine through your sits bones, beyond your legs, you are planting really deep roots. So, really deep and wide roots on the exhale. So, we're strengthening that connection to the ground beneath us. So, taking a breath in, pulling in that light and energy from the ground. And then exhaling, extending our roots, our connection, our stability to the ground. Breathing in light and energy, pull it in from the ground. And exhale, plant those deep roots. Breathing in light and energy. and exhaling the deep roots. Now, as we move through these next couple of breaths, I want you to focus in on extending that exhale a little bit longer than the inhale. So we're breathing in that light and energy and then extending that exhale. Make it slow, deep, and extended. And continue breathing at your own pace, breathing in that light and energy. And exhaling, rooting into the ground, extending that exhale. A few more breaths. Allowing that energy to travel up the spine and extend through the whole body on that inhale. And on that exhale, allowing that energy to travel back down and extend into the ground. We'll take one more breath together here. Breathe in and exhale. Creating those firm roots into the ground. All right, slowly start to wiggle your fingers and toes. When you're ready, you can flutter your eyes open. Hopefully, you're already feeling a little bit more grounded, a little bit more centered than when we first started class a couple of minutes ago. All right, so we are going to start with a foot technique that I really enjoy. And this is a practice that I have a lot of my clients do. It's for just the general health and mobility of our feet, but I thought that it was appropriate with today's theme of grounding and feeling grounded. So, what we're going to do, hopefully, if you feel comfortable touching your feet, you can remove any shoes or socks that you might have on. And we're going to do this with bare feet. So, I'm going to take my right foot and my right hand. So right foot is going to cross over the left leg. So we're going to kind of create this figure four. Right hand, I'm going to interlock my fingers in between my toes, and you can use your other hand to help you. But I'm interlocking fingers in between those toes. Um, for some of you, this might be really easy. I have really mobile feet just because I grew up doing gymnastics. So my feet are pretty mobile. But for some of you, especially if you wear a lot of like really tight shoes or like narrow toe box shoes, like your feet, your toes might feel like they're hard to separate. But this is why we do this. Your left hand is going to anchor your heel. So you grab onto your heel and you're going to anchor at your heel. And then using your right hand, your top hand, you're going to twist the top of your foot side to side. So this technique is called a foot splice. And all we're doing is just one, increasing the mobility between the toes, giving your toes a little bit more space to move. And then also kind of articulating the bones within the midfoot. This might also just feel really good at your arches. So I'm just twisting the top of my foot side to side. If you're kind of looking at this and thinking like, whoa, Daniela, your feet are very mobile, mine could never. Just remember, we all have very different feet. And I do this exercise quite a bit. So take your time here. And if you like it, you can implement it often. Now, what's going to be really cool is here in just a second, we're going to notice the difference between both feet. All right, let's go ahead and release and go ahead and extend your legs out so your feet are like side by side. And then just like wiggle out your feet and your toes. I mean, you can kind of even see in the camera, like my feet are kind of like a different color. This foot feels more free, the foot we just worked on. This one still feels a little restricted. All right, let's do the other side. So we're going to take left foot and we're going to cross that foot over to the right leg. And I'm going to take my left hand and I'm going to interlock the fingers in between my toes. And totally fine if you feel like immediately feel a difference between both feet, like, oh, this foot is easier or maybe harder than the other foot to like get in between those toes. And that's not right or wrong. It's just what it is. So let's go ahead and anchor that heel down. Right hand is going to anchor your heel, and then left hand is going to twist the top of the foot side to side. Speaking of right and wrong, I I think that's such a great topic to discuss because I think that we often worry a lot about whether we're making a right or wrong decision or like what's the right thing to do. And I think that we can all use some practice in releasing that worry and remembering that for most things, not all things, but for most things, there is not really a right or wrong. It's just what it is. And I think that we can choose what is right and what is wrong. Um, like we get to determine that, right? So there is no right or wrong, and especially like when it comes to the body, when it comes to your body, remember that our body is always working for us, but we often try to make it wrong by saying, like, oh, it's supposed to be this way, or it's supposed to be that, or it shouldn't be doing this, it shouldn't be doing that. Um, remember, there is no right or wrong. It's just what it is. And we just observe and let it be. And I think that is part of feeling grounded, is just knowing that there's not necessarily right or wrong. It's just what it is. All right, let's release that foot. And again, bring those feet together, wiggle out the toes, wiggle out the feet, and just notice how your feet feel. Do they feel more free, more open? Do they feel the same? Just notice. Notice what you feel. All right, let's bring those feet back in to a seated position. And again, finding those sits bones. From here, we're going to take a deep breath in. We're going to sweep those arms up. So, as we sweep up, um, throughout today's class, there will be several movements where we kind of move upwards. But today, I want you to really focus on actually extending down. So, even though our limbs are moving up, I want you to again bring that focus in to your head, all the way down your spine into your pelvis, like really root down through your spine, even if we're moving our limbs up. So taking a breath in, and then we're going to drop the right arm, reach up, and bend over to the right. So reach with that left arm. So right arm is on the ground. So you may notice that your left hip is wanting to come up off of the ground. So press that hip down as we reach up and over. And from here, take a breath in, and I want you to breathe into that side rib. Breathe in and exhale through the nose. So breathing in and exhale. So we're moving kind of in a couple different directions. So our hip is grounding down into the ground. So it's moving down. That rib cage is expanding out in kind of this 360 direction. And then the arm is reaching up and over. So you've got kind of a couple different vectors to kind of try to feel all three directions in your body as you breathe in and exhale. Deepen into that stretch. And let's go ahead, bring it back to center. Exhale, wiggle it out. And now let's go to the other side. So, right arm is going to reach up, and left arm is going to reach down. Exhale, up and over with that right arm. And again, notice, pay attention to what that right hip is doing. If you feel it start to lift off the ground, you feel a little unbalanced in the weight that each of your hips is carrying, go ahead and press that right hip down. Just kind of bring some awareness and just in your mind's eye, try to push that hip, excuse me, try to push that hip down. And then that right rib cage, as we breathe in, that right rib cage is going to expand in all directions. And that right arm is reaching up and over. Release any tension in the neck and shoulders. And we'll take one more breath here. Again, focus in on those three different vectors: hip pressing down, rib cage moving in that 360 motion, that right arm reaching up and over. And exhale it back to center. And again, wiggle it out. All right, let's go ahead and come to hands and knees. So here in a quadruped position on hands and knees, we're just going to take a moment to bring some awareness to our hands. So our hands are touching the ground, but they are doing more than that. I want you to really spread your fingers out. So kind of align that middle finger with the arm, and then the other fingers are just going to like flare out from there. And I want you to notice where the weight is in your hands. Is it near the front, near the back, in your fingertips, maybe on the insides or the outsides? But I want you to really press through your entire palm and then press through the joints of your fingers. And then lastly, press through all the tips of your fingers, so your fingertips. And then once you feel really rooted in your hands, I want you to bring some awareness back to your pelvis. So the pelvis is off the ground, but we are connected through our leg, through our thigh, and our knees to the ground. So I want you to breathe into the hips and exhale. Feel yourself kind of lengthen from the ground as you press those knees down into the ground. Okay, now that we are really connected to the ground, we're going to take a breath in and we're going to sit back and open up the sits bones. And we're going to allow the belly to drop and we're going to lift the chest, lift the head, take a breath in. And exhale, pull the pelvis under, round the spine. Think about spreading the shoulder blades and let the head fall in between the arms. From here, you can add a little wiggle side to side if that feels good to you. And then start to open up the pelvis behind you. Open up those sits bones. Drop the belly. Open up the chest. Lift the head. Take a breath in. And exhale. Start to pull the hip under. Pull the pelvis under. Round the spine. Start to spread those shoulder blades and let the head fall between the arms. Exhale. And again, start to open up the sits bones. Drop the belly, lift the chest, lift the head, take a breath in. And exhale, pull the pelvis under, round the spine, spread the shoulder blades, let the head fall forward. Again, adding in some wiggles if that feels good to you. All right, from here, coming back to kind of that neutral position, checking back in with the hands. Where is the weight in our hands? Are you pressing the palms into the ground, the joints, the fingertips? Pressing the knees into the ground. It helps that hip feel more elevated. I want you to go ahead and tuck the toes. So we're going to tuck your toes under. So it'll feel a good stretch through the big toes. Go ahead and rock the hips back and forth a couple of times. And from here, we're going to extend your left leg out. So we're hands and knees, and then we're going to extend the left leg out behind us. And we're going to press back into that heel. So feel a good stretch through the calf. Take a breath in. Bring it back to center. And now we're going to extend that right leg out and then press into that heel. You'll feel a stretch through the calf. And while we're pressing back, don't forget to press into the hands, creating those strong connections to the ground. All right, bringing the right leg back in. We are going to tuck those toes under and we're going to step back into a high plank. So we're in that high plank position. And from here, we're going to shift up and back, downward facing dog. So in downward facing dog, we're going to walk the heels into the ground. So we're just kind of alternating a step from leg to leg. As we press that chest back towards the legs, we're just alternating, pressing the heels into the ground. And we're going to hold here. So I was just reminded that, so if you were part of our last class, I completely forgot to talk about the emotional connection between, or the emotional connection to the kidneys. And I told myself, don't forget to make the connection between our emotions and feeling grounded. Let's go ahead and shift forward into plank. So from here, we're going to shift forward into plank, and then we're going to alternate shifting back into downward facing dog. I'm just holding for about 3 seconds in each position. So when we feel ungrounded, we can kind of link that to connections of or feelings of anxiety and fear. And I think times of transition, like for example, going from fall to summer, I often have that feeling of uneasiness or just that feeling of not feeling grounded. A lot of things are changing, right? And I think because the brain likes to know what is happening, so kind of any feelings of uncertainty feel scary to the brain. So it makes sense that we feel a little bit on edge. Go ahead and bring those knees down and we'll sit back into child's pose. So it makes sense that when there is uncertainty where we don't know what exactly is happening, because that is what happens during periods of transition, we are faced with uncertainty, and that can bring up a lot of feelings of uneasiness, of anxiety, fear. So it really helps to connect to our core and to our sacral area. So that's why we started class with creating that connection from the pelvis to the ground. Go ahead and slowly roll it up back to hands and knees. From here, we're going to tuck the toes and we're going to press up and back to downward facing dog one more time. But we're going to slowly walk those hands back towards the feet and allow yourself to hang here for a moment, really grounding the feet through the ground. So, same thing that we did with the hands earlier. We kind of spread the fingers. We're going to spread the toes, press the middle of the foot into the ground, and press our heels into the ground. And when you're ready, when you feel stable, start to push the knees forward and start to push the hips forward and let yourself very, very slowly roll up to a standing position. And you're going to allow the head, shoulders to kind of unravel last. And go ahead and take a couple of shoulder circles backwards and then shoulder circles forward. And we're going to take a few more spinal rolls. So, taking a breath in, we're going to tuck that chin under. I'll turn a bit so hopefully you can see this a little better. So, tuck the chin under, Roll the shoulders forward. Allow yourself to fold over your rib cage, fold over your diaphragm, over your center, over your hips. Very, very slowly roll down towards the floor. And just notice if there's any areas, kind of any spots where you maybe feel a little stuck through your spine. And again, no right or wrong, just what it is, observing. And when you're ready, start to push the knees forward, start to push the hips forward, grounding through the feet. So being aware of how you feel those feet connect with the ground as you roll up. Open up the chest, shoulders, the head. And we're going to do one more. So take a breath in, tuck the chin, roll the head forward, roll the shoulders forward. Allow yourself to fold over your rib cage and just notice if it feels any looser, any more mobile. And again, bringing that awareness to the ground, to your feet's connection with the ground. And as we roll up for this next extension, I want you to consider how you can use movement, you can use your body to help create feelings of groundedness, feelings of assurance. You can bring some awareness to your body. It'll start to roll up and create some feelings of trust and assuredness within your own body. Can that then radiate out to your life, your world around you? And let that head extend up. Good. All right, let's go ahead and come to the back edge of our mat. We're going to move into the world's greatest stretch, one of my favorite moves, one of my favorite stretches. So we're going to soften the knees, rooting ourselves into the ground. So again, being aware of our feet's connection to the ground, spreading out those toes, pressing the middle of the foot into the ground. Soft knees, brace the core. We're going to hinge at the hips, and we're going to reach to the ground in front of us and walk the hands out into a high plank. We're going to take your left foot forward. Now, you do have the option of dropping that back knee if you'd like, or you can keep it lifted. We're going to bring that left foot up by the left hand. So we're kind of in this runner's lunge position. Take a moment here, wiggle around, and we're going to press that right heel back like we did earlier. We're extending through the ground, rooting our foot into the ground. From here, take a breath in, and we're going to lift that left arm. So as we lift, remember, we're not just lifting up, we're also rooting down. So as we lift that left arm up, we're also rooting that right hand, right arm down into the ground. We're going to open up that chest. Take a breath in and out here. And release back to the ground. Root both hands into the ground, step back to plank, and we'll walk those hands back towards the feet. And again, spinal roll up very slowly. And we're going to do that one more time on the other side. So root those feet into the ground, soft knees, brace the core, hinge at the hips, reach to the ground, walk it out into a high plank. Feeling those hands press into the ground, feet press into the ground. We're going to bring the right foot forward into that runner's lunge. Left heel presses back. So we're extending, rooting through that left leg, even though that right leg is lifted up as well. So from here, we're going to lift that right hand. And as we do, we are rooting through the left hand. So take a breath in, reach up with that right hand, root down through the left. Exhale. And bring that right hand back down. Press down with both hands. Reach that right foot back, plank position. Walk those hands back towards the feet. Root the feet into the ground. Push the knees forward. Push the hips forward. Slowly roll it up. All right, let's go ahead, come to the center of our mat. Go ahead and take a couple of steps in place. Soften the knees, stand tall, root yourself through your feet into the ground, and we'll bring those hands to heart center. Taking a breath in and exhale through the nose. Again, taking a breath in and exhale through the nose. Take a moment here to notice how you feel. What feelings, what sensations did this movement class create in your body? And can you sit, can you be with those feelings of fear and anxiousness and worry? And can you use the tools that you have, your body, to create groundedness, to create a feeling of groundedness within your body? Is that a continuing education course this weekend? I was helping to teach, and my friend and teacher Anna asked us, "What does safety feel like in your body?" And I think that when we are aware of what safety feels like, and we're kind of trapped in these emotions of anxiety, worry, fear, when we feel uneasy, ungrounded, we can come back to ourselves. And if we know what safety in our body feels like, we can create that feeling and recreate it over and over again. So as we close class today, I want you to consider, what does safety feel like in your body? And when you're ready, you can release the hands, start to wiggle your fingers and toes, and you can flutter those eyes open and march those feet out. All right. Thank you so much for joining me for this grounding flow. I hope that it helped you feel more centered, more grounded. And this recording will be on the restorative movement class playlist. So you can come back to this class time and time again as you need. So again, I'm Coach Danny. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you back soon. If you have any suggestions or any kind of class that you would like to see, please put that in the chat box and let me know if you enjoyed today's class. And I will be doing some more regular lives in the coming weeks, so be on the lookout for those. All right. Thank you so much. So anyone has any questions, any comments? Would love to hear from you. Thank you for joining me for today's class. Thank you. Glad you were here. All right. If there are no more questions, I'll see you all soon. Have a great rest of your day.